Hi, I'm Steve from the Stonecrafting Workshop. Welcome. This is my rock tumbler that I bought a few months ago. It's the National Geographic Hobby rock tumbler. And I've just finished my second batch of tumbling stones and they've come out brilliantly well. Eventually they came out brilliantly well. But this video here is not about how to actually go through the process of tumbling. This is really about trying to help you to decide whether you should buy a rock tumbler or not, and whether this is the hobby for you. Before you decide whether to buy a rock tumbler or not, I think there's 6 things you should consider. The first is the cost of the machine itself. This hobby rock tumbling machine was the cheapest one I could find, and it cost me £70, including delivery. It's marketed largely as an educational toy for children. And that seems like quite a lot of money for an educational toy. It comes complete with half a pound of rocks and 4 sachets of grit, which is just sufficient to do one complete rock tumble through the process. Consideration 2 is that once you've finished the first tumble right the way through, the sachets of grit that came with the machine are gone and you have to replace them. I bought these 4 sachets as a set on eBay. That cost me the grand total of £19. Now if you go onto YouTube and see some of the Americans guys who are doing YouTube videos on tumbling, you'll see them there and they're shoveling this grit into their pots. And if you're going to do that, you're going to get through this ever so quickly. The National Geographic tumbler came with a set of instructions, and I think if you follow those instructions to the letter, I think you'll end up with stones that aren't very well polished. The instructions state that the process should take about 4 weeks. But I think it can take an awful lot longer. This particular batch, with their really nice polish, took me about 8 weeks, with a bit of messing about, which is a lot longer than 4 weeks. Just how long can depend on a variety of factors. How hard the stone is, stones vary in hardness, how rough the stone is before you start, how much grit you use, and also the consistency of the slurry, which I think is probably critical to the whole process. I spent some of those weeks experimenting with adding soap and borax powder to the actual slurry mix, to the silica carbide grits, to try and achieve the right consistency of slurry. It is very much a learning process of trial and error. A process that is quite a bit more involved than is implied in the instructions that come with this machine and in descriptions of rock tumbling that you find on the internet. Consideration number 4 is to do with the noise of the machine. This machine is running quite quietly. I think I've probably put too much borax in this particular mix, but and I'll deal with that later. But the point is, it's actually quite noisy. I personally wouldn't put one of these machines in my house and run it. I wouldn't put it in my conservatory and run it. This one runs in here in my workshop, which is a detached garage. And I actually put it inside a soundproof room I've got for doing my noisy work. So I don't care how noisy it is. But I think if you were running this in your home, somewhere in your home. I suspect at 3 o'clock in the morning you're going to wake up and hear it. And I think this single factor alone is probably responsible for there being thousands of these sitting on shelves and in cupboards not being used. If you're one of those people and you just couldn't bear the noise, can I suggest that you try putting it somewhere obviously out of the way, but putting it on a couple of layers of old carpet, which will damp down some of the rumble, and perhaps putting a box over it, even a couple of cardboard boxes, just to damp down the noise, and see if that helps you out. Consideration 5 is, where are you going to get your stones from? There are two options. You can collect them locally, pick them up yourself, or you can buy them from tumbling shops and rock dealers. I get mine off of the beach, and I'm quite happy about that. I get a nice variety of stones and it costs me nothing. If you don't have a ready source of stones that you can pick up, you may have to resort to buying them, and they're not cheap. They cost, roughly speaking, £15 a kilo, and a kilo isn't much, and that's an ongoing cost. Another ongoing cost of this hobby. Consideration 6 is, what are you going to do with the stones? Why are you rock tumbling? It may be that you're simply fascinated by the process. That actually is me. I love this process. It may be that you want to become a rock collector, so you're going to buy or collect all sorts of exotic stones and tumble and polish them and collect them, and that's great. That really is great. I also use mine for crafting purposes, and in future videos on YouTube I'll be showing you some of the things I do with some of these really nice stones that I pick up off the beach. But it's worth thinking about it before you buy the tumbler and before you start. That way you'll have a clear idea of what it is you're trying to achieve. So, what's the conclusion, really? As I said at the beginning, this particular machine, the hobby tumbler, is marketed as an educational toy for older children. And you have to be fairly confident that you have the sort of children who will have the patience and the kind of tenacity to carry on with this hobby. And if that's the case, terrific. Then we go for it. I think this is a great hobby, personally. If you're going to be a serious collector and you're interested in gemstones and semi-precious stones and so on, then I think it's brilliant. I just hope that I'm not going to put people off by highlighting some of the issues with the noise and buying the stones and buying the grit, because I really love this. I really enjoy this, and I wouldn't like to think that I deterred people. The issues with the machine, with the noise, I think you can get over it if you give it a bit of thought. So thanks for watching. I hope this has been of some use to you, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have enjoyed watching and it's been useful, please give me a thumbs up. I like those. If you want to see more videos about stone crafting and about stone tumbling and what have you, please subscribe. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your tumbling if you take it up.